we're gonna see how this works out. I'm gonna do a video walking on one of our trails and see what you guys think. So I've just been feeling the need lately to talk about the esoteric, right? I find it interesting. So this is going to be a ramble, and there are fish jumping out of the water. That's like the second one in about 30 seconds. We'll see if anything else jumps out. This is not. Oh, another one jumped. I know this is not the most beautiful scene with all the trees that are dry rot, but you can hear the birds singing. There's a nest of ospreys somewhere, not here, a bit further down, that I never get to go look for because I always have my lovely Chloe, oh my gosh, Addie with me. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm gonna say the third dog name. Nova. Addie's my daughter's dog that lives with us. Chloe is my dog that died just under 2 years ago. But anyway, so Nova is my new puppy. So anyway, I was trying to see if we'd see another fish jump, but you know, they don't really like you talking. So there's Nova. Sorry, sweetie. All right, so yeah, the esoteric. So I'm gonna ramble a little bit, and no, I hear them jumping, but so anyway, I'm gonna twirl because my dog likes to wrap me in the leash like she is walking me. So there's a whole bunch of different thoughts that I have, and we'll see if they connect. Oh, miss the cardinal over there, or if it's gonna go on its own path. I'm not sure what she is doing here, but this is my most recent thought that didn't have anything to do with what I originally wanted to talk about. But so anyway, it's very interesting. I guess you could call it the self-help, self-motivation field, you know, with the coaching and everything. Is how so often these coaches will take spiritual principles and make them practical for people and take out the spirituality, really. Don't eat that. Oh, there's a lizard over here. I don't know if we can see it. No, it's hiding behind the little tree there. But yeah, don't watch this while you're driving. No, Nova, stop. She likes to eat these miniature bamboo, which is okay in small quantities for them to eat. But then if she eats too much of it, she throws up on the floor. She ruined my brand new rug that I had to get rid of. All right, so back to spirituality and self-help. And so some of you may know, may have listened to a video where I commented on the fact that for many years I was in a Christian, a non-denominational Christian group, and I led youth groups and preteen groups. I led women's groups. I led, Bible study with PhD students. I did a lot of stuff. A lot of teaching, a lot of learning, and a lot of what we would call discipling, which is basically life coaching for people. And And so it was interesting seeing this new era, which is kind of old now, but it's about 20 years old, of like mainstream, in a major way, mainstream life coaching, right? Maybe it's a little bit older, but where it's been accessible for everybody, it's been about 20 years. And to see even then, like, oh my gosh, okay, so this is just discipleship for profit. I'm doing it for free, which was fine because I love doing it, and I love people. I love serving the divine in that way. And although I do not go to church, and I don't necessarily desire to go to church, I loved it. And I feel like I was, not even like I feel like, I know that I was true to my principles, and that there's probably not anything that I would say differently today than I would then, because my goal was to always be truthful, to be connected to source, to help people find their truth and their connection to source, and to find the truth in each situation. So, but it's just been interesting to listen to people, and to them, for them mostly to be like, okay, well, I'm going to explain this thing to you, and it sounds a little esoteric, it sounds a little, whatever, but we're going to take out the woo-woo. We're going to take out the spirituality. We're just going to use the principles. And that's the amazing thing about whatever spiritual direction you take, whether it's Buddhism or Christianity, quote unquote, Hinduism, Islam, right? Excuse me. The foundation of these religions are all rooted. There's truth in all of them. The problem happens is when man says, well, it's only Jesus. And I'll say Jesus in this situation, because they don't call him Yeshua, because if they followed Yeshua, it would be a different religion, really. But there's still a lot of really sound principles within the Bible, despite all the manipulations. And it's like a really big squirrel over there. Anyway, so I think the point of the divine is that there's truth in all things, right? And that we all are different, and we can all, when we're seeking truth, find truth from different aspects, different roads. Just like, one mountain, if you put a house, we're not going this way, sweetie, come on. If you put a house on top of a mountain, right? If you're driving, there may be only one road, right? Well, but if you're hiking, there are many trails to the top. There's not just one way to get up to the mountain, to the top, and 99% of mountains, right? So why do I say all this? There's just so much, when we look back the history of the Americas, and the just for the algorithm, we're not going to call it completely what it is, but the free work trade, that happened. We got all kinds of things running around today. All right, come on, sweetie. So the free work trade, right, brought people through the Americas, and then they, extinguished a good majority of those who lived here in freedom with the land, in peace with the land. And they actually took people who, the workers that they brought were mostly in freedom with their land, right? In peace and in freedom, and had some amazing culture, amazing feats. We can look all the way back, through and beyond the pyramids being built, and the knowledge that was there, and the partnership with land and with energy. We're still figuring out a lot of that stuff. And the Persians came and invaded in I think it was the 600s AD, right? And so since the Persians invaded and changed the culture, because it was very darkly brown. Then it became a little lighter brown after the Persians invaded and reclaimed history as their own and added to history. That's funny. Sorry about that, guys. But they reclaimed history, and then eventually, I think probably it was like in the 1600s, 1700s. Oh, I meant the Persians invaded. It was BC, like 600s BC. But then in the 1700s AD, we find that the country was redivided and on maps changed to lessen the connection with the whole continent. And so it became the Middle East, or the near Middle East, Egypt, but the Persians didn't want to be considered part of Africa. So I know I'm kind of winding, kind of like the trail. But so why did I start all this? Okay, with the free work trade. Okay, so the peoples who were here and the peoples that they brought were very connected to the land, to Mother Gaia, to I think the Oshuns, and to spirituality. I'm gonna twirl again. Sorry, the dog went behind me and I walked into a spider web. So anyway, so they were very spiritual, but their spirituality and their lives were a good bit snuffed out, stolen, redirected, retaught, and they were forced in many ways, if they wanted to live, to adopt to Christianity. And and Christianity, there's a lot of awesomeness about it, but in many ways you can look at it and go, there's a lot of religion, but in many instances there's a lack of spirituality, in some ways a lack of connection. And I don't mean that for everybody. There are a lot of people who are very spiritual, right? I think what I'm trying to say is that the amount of spirituality and connection to Mother Gaia, to greater things beyond the narrow scope of Yeshua is limited, right? So Christianity narrows your access points to greater spirituality. And so from there, we look and we see the whole life coaching narrows it even more. It says, hey, you can take these principles. These are biblical principles. These are principles that are from the Quran. These are principles from Buddhism. These are sound principles that if you follow them, you don't even need to believe in anything, right? You just need sound principles, sound beliefs, sound understanding of how things work. And in some instances, that would have been magic, right? But knowing the power of your mind, knowing the power of your will, knowing the power of community, right? And you don't need, in a sense, a conscious worship to benefit from those. We got something else running. So, we're going to go over to these seats real quick. So, I mean, if you guys are wondering, like, why I'm breathing so heavy, I'm wearing a weighted vest. It's like a 35-pound weighted vest. So, and I don't usually talk with me and the doggy or walking in the woods or running. So, it takes a little more oxygen to do that. So anyway, so that's kind of a brief, general, little walk down the removal of spirituality in our lives, in practicality, and in our missions and our goals, and in our self-betterment. And here she goes. She likes to dig holes. And so sometimes I have to apologize to the trees because then she'll start biting the roots. But they can handle it. They've been around a long time. We don't purposefully do it, but they understand that she is not human and doing it with evil intent. Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna move my leash, and I forgot the camera in the hand. So anyway, so I go through all this to get back to what I started talking about is having a little bit of an esoteric conversation. And so since this is my channel, and I will assume that if you are here and if you are connected to my energy, that you are someone who naturally thinks and may live outside of the box. And or you may, if you are a bit in a box, sometimes we find ourselves in a box, but I like to picture it as a box that has, maybe it's a metal box, but you lift up all the windows, right? It's surrounded by windows. Maybe there's one wall that's not windows, but we're surrounded. We got 3 windows and 3 walls full of windows, and 1 or 2 or even 3 of them open all the way up. We open those up, and so because we have so much visual sight beyond the box, sometimes we can feel like we don't live in the box, right? And then we realize in different ways, oh, wait a minute, there's this chain on my ankle. There's this rope attaching me to this place. There's a, I don't know, something. There's a bed. A bed attached me to this box. And so I may leave the box and I may be beyond the box more than the average person, but sometimes I end up right back in the box. And so that is one of the things on our journey, right? To constantly see where to expand, where we can expand and grow. So anyway, I think my last couple of messages, I mentioned that picture that I had drawn after I was meditating and thinking about different things going on in the world. And so the significance of the picture was just the fact that there's a lot going on right now in the world. And, we, as many people are, but especially we here in the U.S., are taught from birth how amazing this country is. And there are and have been many amazing aspects of our country, right? Many opportunities. This has been a country where the impossible could happen for many. You can come And even though there may be, trying to see what my dog was looking at. Even though there may be many obstacles against you, right, you can still succeed, and you can still kind of have a really big impact. You can still do great things for your family. You can achieve a lot. You can really still have impact on the world, right? But we're at a point in history and energy in our timeline, and you can look at this from a spiritual perspective, from a scientific perspective, even like we're in the midst of our polar change, our magnetic north changing, and the impact that that has had, the things that happen throughout history when that happens, and you can connect that to you see the lizard has a big old fly. Oops, it went on the other side. Yeah, so what was I saying? That was a beautiful blue lizard. Oh gosh. I didn't put any bug spray on, so I got these big black flies every once in a while that are like darting at my head, which I happen to have right now. So that must mean I was on a good point. What were we saying? Let me take a second. Swat this fly away. I don't remember. So maybe it will, I'm sure it will link back up. But okay. So the pictures, right, that I drew with the weight, the mott, the ostrich feather, ox feather, the scales of judgment, right, or the dragon. That didn't really look like a dragon. And the heart, right, weighted down with a bird flying beneath it. I don't really know why I drew the bird beneath it, but then that next day I went to the beach, as I do often, and didn't go to the beach that I've been going to most recently. I went to a beach that that I haven't gone to in a little while, and so I went in the kind of the river side of it, and I was wading in the water, and like the remains of a bird heart washed up at my feet, and I thought, you know, my inner voice said, take a picture, because I take a picture of like almost everything, and I didn't. And so then I left, and I got home, and I was sitting down at the dining room table, and because I had forgotten about the picture I drew, and I opened up my notebook, and I was like, oh crap, that's the significance of that. And so even before that, when I left work that day on my way home, before I stopped at the beach, there was someone had run over a goose, and my heart just broke, and I was like, dang, you know, people, like, we're so dehumanized. We're so, culture has gotten us to the point where the average person really has, so many people have no true respect for life. And I mean life in the greater sense of, rather than just humans, but life itself. You know, and you can see this in the way that we allow contractors to just come and clear cut everything in a town to build homes, you know, that they profit more, right, because it costs them less to do the work, to keep the natural landscape, to work with the land. Anyway, you can look and see it in many ways. But so the thoughts in the meditation when I was drawing the picture were about the judgment of this country and just all the lifeblood that is in the land. And so that's kind of ties us back to, the work trade of free labor that have been brought from around the world, one country to another through the Americas. The free labor, the laws that would support that continued free labor, that would profit one large group of people and not those who were working. And then the defamation of the character of those peoples who provided free labor, who built these nations, and never got any recompense for it. They weren't even considered to have full rights, and many would argue that in some ways they still don't. So anyway, so there's a lot of blood, a lot of life force in the land, right? Unjustified in the land. There are many who were here first. This is, who were wiped out, and then those who weren't wiped out, when they were young, many of them were taken from their families. They were brought into camps, they called them schools. Their identities were stripped. Many of them were adopted out into Caucasian families. They lost contact with their families. Sometimes they were married off into Caucasian families, so then those Caucasian families could have access to the land and have access to helping lead those nations of people in ways that did not necessarily benefit them. So there's a lot. I mean, this may sound a little heavy, and we all want love and light and joy, and we should be able to go through challenges in our lives and still have joy in our hearts. That is a sign of spiritual maturity, not joy that comes from ignorance or ignoring things, but joy that comes from just knowing that whatever challenges we're going through, we know that they will pass. And so be it that they hurt or that they're challenging, there's still a sense of confidence and joy and connection with the divine. But true spirituality comes with truth, right? And awakening should come with truth and a responsibility to restore what is right and what is true, and not just to continually cover it up with other garbage and dump other stuff on it, or we're just gonna pour water over it, and turn it into a lake so that those who have can just benefit. We're gonna forget it. I mean, there's actually towns in the state that I'm in that have done that. They've taken people's land, right? And they used to call one area that I lived in beautiful, a whole bunch of mansions on this lake now. I mean, it's not the prettiest lake, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, the lake is filled with mansions. But at one point, it was filled with poor people, with brown people. And they used to call them river rats, and they weren't respected. That's where those people live, the greasy people, the people who work hard for a living. And then, someone figured out, like, oh my gosh, these people are living a life. They're getting, to fish. They're getting, great downtime, even though when they're tired, they might be overworked, but they get to go home. They get to go on the water. They get to sit on their perches and swing on their porch swings, and they just get to commune with nature. So, You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna confiscate those houses. We're gonna give them a little bit of money so they can't really buy another house anywhere else. And then we're just gonna like flood the area, and then we're gonna build these McMansions and draw in people with real money. So those kind of things have happened all over the nation, and the weight of the lifeblood that has gone into the soil is a lot. And when we look at what's going on currently with our social structure and those who lead it, we see that there's not even pretense to not continue in those ways. You know, there's a blatancy, and many people are awakening. Many people, maybe not awakening spiritually, but they are awakening to the fact that, oh my gosh, you know, I believed a lie. I believed that these people were on my side. You know, I believed that if I voted for these people, like my parents and their parents and their parents, that, you know, it would benefit me, because it would, all this trouble, all this hardship would be kept from me, that my whiteness would protect me from these hardships. And I know we're at 31 minutes, so, and again, I did pre-tell you guys that this was just gonna be a ramble, but we'll see how long it goes. I don't know. So anyway, but when we look at just some of the challenges and atrocities that we are committing throughout the world right now, and the amount of destruction that we are bringing on the planet as a nation, as a government that supports the few who are spurring on this destruction. You see that this system, this current way of living, this ethos cannot continue. It's not sustainable. And so it is a time of awakening. You know, it's a time of change. And, you know, the thing about awakening, sometimes people think like, oh, you know, you awaken and then everything is like just hunky-dory. But there is a transition of clearing things up, cleaning things up. And I just want to say that, you know, we've got voting rights being stripped. We've got, there's always been gerrymandering, right? But now gerrymandering is on a whole nother level. At one point, the Supreme Court used to try to act like they actually cared. Oh, there's a beautiful spider web. I guess it's caught on my hand because it's blowing. So, you know, at least they followed some of the rulings. And I know the past 15 years at least, you know, and longer, there's been less and less integrity. And even attempt to seem like things are happening from integrity. But anyway, so all this stuff, and so the significance, that was kind of the significance of the picture that I drew. And just then drawing the picture and going and seeing a bird's heart, obviously the remains of a carcass that was eaten, you know, by something in the water, was like profound for me. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is absolutely crazy. You talk about like manifestation, and stuff like that happens to me all the time. And so the reason why I talk about this stuff is because I know that I'm not the only one. I meet people And, I'm going to have to see how low this is, because I forgot I turned down the sound, like way down, and I'm not sure. I know my voice doesn't carry, so we'll have to see how low this volume is. And so I might just be talking to myself. But in the event that I'm not, I know that other people experience stuff. I've met people who just randomly tell me, that they believe in, in aliens and UFOs and all kinds of stuff. And, I have always believed in other species. I think it's kind of absurd that we would think that we are so amazing that we are the only planet in the whole universe that houses life, or that we're the only planet in the whole creation of universes, of the multiverse, that houses life. I mean, that's just not even that just isn't logical, and yet, because we're taught that the only things we can believe in is something that science has figured out. And so then when science figures it out, when science figures that it's important enough for them to know, and then they research it and then they figure it out, then we can believe it, because we're evolved. But we can't believe, that, even though we have like many different writings, ancient writings that talk about the angels that came here and connected with humans, with human women. And I mean, everybody loves human women, huh? Especially the dark ones. But so they came and procreated with with women, with African women at the time. And then there were giants that different ancient texts talk about, and they don't talk about them in a fantastical way. I mean, most ancient writings weren't about that. It was about communicating specific things, and carrying truth and memory and passing on knowledge. And it wasn't until, writing for fun is kind of a recent thing, not that people didn't creatively express themselves, but that just wasn't the whole purpose for writing at that time. So anyway, so I talk about this stuff. My puppy's ready to go. So I talk about this stuff just because I know things happen in my life that are not easily expressed, or not expressed, but explained. I have major synchronicities that happen all the time. For instance, when I was involved in going to church, and it was a very active church that was very focused on bringing Yeshua to all the people, and bringing visitors and meeting people and going out and talking to people. And when I tell you that people constantly, someone say consistently, would walk up to me, strangers, right? Would walk up to me and say, "Excuse me, do you know of a church I can go to this week?" It's absolutely crazy. So I'd have visitors all the time, and hold on, Nova. Sorry, someone dropped something I put in the tree. So I would have people come visit with me all the time. I have people studying the Bible with me, or I would to study the Bible with. I would be teaching them about. We would be sharing our lives together in the scriptures. Who would just walk up to me in the street and ask me frequently, and that's not something that is common at all, but that would be common for me. So even and there's so many things I could talk about, like how people would, and still now, have friends call me and ask me to pray for certain things. And that is not, I'm not communicating this stuff in any way to say that I'm something awesome. I'm just saying that that miraculous, unexplainable things, lots of synchronicities happen in my life day to day. And so I know that if you found me, that those things probably happen in your life frequently as well. And the key is, are you acknowledging them? Do you see them? Do you remember them? Or do you just ignore them and go, that's nothing? Are there ways that the divine desires to move through you and in you and for you that you ignore, that you, oh, isn't that cute? Someone's building tiny little houses for the fairies. So are you just kind of throwing stuff off? Do we throw stuff off, or do we acknowledge and do we thank the divine for the intervention that's in our lives in the small ways? And the important thing about acknowledging stuff in the small ways is because when we're grateful for the little things, right, it's the little things that build and they become bigger things and they grow. Like seeds are so tiny. Even some of the larger seeds, like acorns and walnuts and stuff, right? Those, when you compare them to seeds, those are kind of larger seeds. But when you compare it to the tree that grows from it, and you compare it to the numerous, almost endless, abundant amount of seeds that one tree will produce over a lifetime, over, several hundred years of a lifetime from that one seed, right? That is prosperity. That is abundance. That is the power of growth. And that is the type of impact that the divine desires to have in your life when we acknowledge the small blessings, right? For those blessings to be planted, to be watered, whether by us or by life, right? For it to sprout and for it to reproduce and for it to grow and or to grow and then reproduce itself. And so, there's so many, 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 many blessings that happen in our lives that we should take the time to acknowledge, to be grateful for, to thank, and to know with confidence that this is the divine speaking to you, that the divine is giving you signs of approval. The divine is giving you direction through conversations you overhear, through people who pop into your life, through even ads that come up. Sometimes, a lot of times through the algorithm, just random stuff that pops up. And the more confident we are, knowing that the divine is walking with us and that we are guided and that there is a greater purpose in our lives, the more succinctly those blessings will manifest and grow and help transform our life. Like, change doesn't have to take an extremely long amount of time. Change can happen overnight. We can wake up and be a different person. And on that note, I'm going to talk about something else a little more esoteric on change, just because it kind of popped into my mind. I know it's like 44 minutes, maybe four. I think, ooh, a bug fly in my eye. I think I'm going to leave it here. Thank you for joining me today. I will talk about the other thing that I was thinking of, but I'll do it in a different video because this one is pretty long. But thank you for walking with me. I hope you enjoyed this little travel through nature. We're almost at the end of the trail, but then we have to walk all the way back. I don't like walking back through the trail. Whew. Just because parts of it has, the way back has mosquitoes galore and gnats and stuff. But yeah, it's still, gosh, once we get to the end, it's about almost a mile back the other way. So anyway, I thank you for spending this time with me. I thank you for your friendship, for your soulship. And yes, we don't know each other, and but I know that we will, and I know for some of us that we probably have before. And as a friend of mine used to say, we're all just walking each other home. And if I can in any way help enlighten the road for you, it is my honor. And so, Nova and I will say bye and have a wonderful day. Much love.